everyone's going along with it. That's what the story's about. You almost get the feeling that Trump says none of this matters, which a lot of people say is like being naked intellectually, politically, to what's actually going on. And so then Cruz is sort of trying to sound like and look like the emperor. Oh, this is what they're all going to do now? They're going to say this as if Trump has the right message. Of course, as you know, and I think our viewers know because they follow politics closely, not everyone thinks about it, remembers that Trump's not on the ballot. He may not care because he doesn't care whether other House Republicans who've tried to back him up every which way, whether they lose their seats. So that's part of that message. Whether that works, I want to play for your response. What we have together here, which is how often Trump is adopting that line that Cruz is echoing. Take a look.
The president said, I don't care if they're over, honestly. I really don't care. I couldn't care less. If they're over, they're over. If they're not, I think they took too much time. Frankly, I think they started to get a little boring.
I don't think about American financial situation. I don't think about anybody.
President Trump meeting with cabinet members at the White House, claiming he doesn't care about the midterms when it comes to Iran.
I don't care about the midterms.
James?
Well, if I were a Republican House member, a Senate member, I'd be pretty, he doesn't care. What does that mean? It's a new message. I've never, in all my years in politics, I've never heard the leader of a political party say, I don't care if we win the election or not. It matters nothing to me. And maybe he is so self-absorbed that that's true.
Right, that he's blurting the truth, and they might be talking about it the day after the November elections. Again, I don't like to get ahead of it. But if he says, I don't care, and does all these things that really show that he doesn't care, and what? These people, you've consulted for these candidates. Some of them spend decades trying to get these jobs that they might lose for really avoidable reasons, no?
Yeah, and a political party he doesn't care. He doesn't, what accomplishments he has. They're very meager. I'm trying to give me a couple of weeks and I can come up with something. But it's very unique that a president would say, I don't care. The other thing is something is wrong here. This guy goes to Walter Reed more than I go to the bathroom. There's something here that's just not adding up. And I'm not sure that we know what it is, but I suspect at some point we will know. And can you imagine when we have troops and we have a dangerous situation that he's bored by it? But tell you who's not bored are people on the Gerald R. Ford that were deployed for 9 months. I guarantee you they're not bored. I guarantee you the pilots that are flying these missions, the ships that are guarding these things, they're not bored at all. This is amazing that you'd say, I'm bored about the United States' position when we have troops somewhere. I can't, it's almost impossible to digest. It's just not any fun anymore.
Well, you're our reality check. When you said it very clearly. You've never seen a leader of a political party say, I don't care whether we win or lose. That tells you something about where he's at and that he's not even willing or able to pretend otherwise, the way one might if they had an iota of care. And the final question I have to you tonight, because again, I don't think we should normalize this stuff. And longtime Beat viewers, if they go back a few years, they'll remember James Carville came on here and said he was concerned that then President Biden was operating in a manner where he might be too old for the next campaign. And you caught heck from your own party for that. And you said it on this program more than once. And so if anyone has been around the block on this and cannot be assailed for having a political angle, ironically, it might be you, a political pro-James Carville, when I ask you about something that is not normal, America. The President of the United States went up late at night and wrote 47 posts, reposts, or comments in a span of 30 minutes, which breaks his prior record of 52 in 6 hours. And these are jokes. Some of them are hateful. Some of them are misleading. Some of them are from AI. None of them show any sort of forethought about the mighty power and platform and reach that he has. Some of them were, of course, as usual, fan-made tributes, which seems to draw his attention, whether they're made in this country or by some foreign influence campaign. He doesn't use the available resources to have the government check. He just posts willy-nilly. Is this something that should concern Americans beyond the so-called optics about what's actually going on in his mind state right now?
Well, if you're not concerned by now, I don't think a 47-tweet night or whatever he does is going to concern you. If you've looked at him, the White House has become a crime syndicate. I mean, look at reading the paper, look at the number created in the defense industry on wars. I mean, if you are not turned off by all of this, then there's something you're just never going to be. But the good news is 65% of the country is turned off by it. And I don't know if we can get any more than that. And the guy lies all the time. I never think he's telling the truth. He may not care. He may be just that self-absorbed that, what do I care? I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I don't know, Ari, but it is really, really unique. And again, if I were a Republican Congressman or senator, I